In Spain, we're suffering probably more than in any other European country this event. Let me give you some data. We have 17.4% of unemployed people as of today. And yes, the crisis is affecting everywhere, and Spain is suffering 2 times that rate of unemployment of the European Union, which is on average 8%. We have an extraordinary case in Holland, only 2.7% of unemployment. Is this related to entrepreneurship in these countries? Is this related to country business models? Are these people, Holland people or the Finnish people, the Dutch people, developing a different business model? Can we learn something from that? At IE Business School, we run a piece of research, which is called GEM, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is done in some 56 countries this year. I am very honored to be also the world chairman of this institution. And we analyze the entrepreneurship phenomenon. To give you some short information and hand the word to our mentors, the entrepreneurial rate in Spain dropped in 2008 by 8%. We're coming from very successful years before this. The expected rate of drop of this entrepreneurial rate in 2009 is 20%, which is really a severe drop, especially if we consider that entrepreneurship, and I will refer in a minute to technology or high-growth entrepreneurship, is responsible for creating jobs, wealth, and innovation in every society. Definitely technology is related to high potential, high-growth entrepreneurship in most of the examples. So, what's happening? What is the environment here? Is this catching up in Europe? What is the relationship, or what can we do in a crisis environment to keep becoming or keep improving our entrepreneurial capabilities? And I'm not only talking here to startup people, but also to firms. And the mayor was referring to that. We need also our big companies, our large multinationals, to become more and more entrepreneurial, to keep creating wealth in the system. So, first question for you guys. Do you have a recipe to foster entrepreneurship in times of crisis? And what would be the main elements of this recipe?
Bueno, bienvenidos. On? Okay. In terms of startups, I think one of the advantages that a startup has is that we always live in crisis. So having a world crisis around us is something that helps us focus more. And I think that really the recipe that I always try and tell entrepreneurs and the things that I've done in my companies is it's really about focus. And you have control over 2 things as an entrepreneur, your focus and your costs. And those are the only things that are in your control. And if you let go of those, you will absolutely fail. If you do those 2 things, it's not meaning that you will succeed, but it's really, if you do those 2 things well, you do have an option or possibility of succeeding. So that's my recipe.
Thanks a lot, Madeline. Please, we're going to go around now, maybe starting from the right of Madeline.
Okay. Hi, I'm David Sifri. And God, I don't think that there's any particular recipe per se. I think, and Madeline actually said it very well from a managerial perspective, right? In terms of running your business, she's absolutely right. I think that from a entrepreneurial or maybe a policy perspective, which is maybe a little bit what I heard more from you and from the mayor, was, number one is create an opportunity, create an environment where people feel that it's okay to fail. That I think that one of the things that we've seen, having built now 5 different companies in Silicon Valley, is that in that particular environment, there is a very significant tolerance, and even to a certain extent, an acceptance and a view of as a failure as even a badge of honor, as a good thing, right? And that you learn so much more from the things that you fail at than from the things that you succeed at doing. And I think that if you're not making mistakes, if you're not failing, you're probably not taking big enough risks. right? And so the idea is thinking about, hey, it's okay to fail, but fail quickly, learn from your mistakes as quickly as you can, and keep taking those big risks. And, if it's not this one, it's going to be the next one. You will succeed.
Thank you, David. That works probably in Silicon Valley. If you fail a lot in this country, I don't think you have a future. We're changing on this. We'll elaborate on that. But thanks for the tip. Please.
So my name is Martin Mikkosen, and I absolutely agree with Dave, and I think that is what Spain and Europe must do as well. And there's a link to employment and unemployment, but I think the time lag is very long. So from the moment you start having good entrepreneurialism in one specific place, it can take 10 to 20 years before it has big effects on employment or unemployment. And if Holland now is at 2%, which it might be, it could be because they started this same transformation 30, 40 years ago. So I think it's a very important part in reducing unemployment, but it has also very long cycles because there is no recipe. The only recipe is to build businesses. And how do you make people build businesses? Well, you encourage them to do so, you allow them to fail, you allow them to win. I come from Finland, and there the problem is not only that you are not allowed to fail, you're also not allowed to win. So there's so why even try? And changing those things take a very, very long time. And at some point, and this, I know not everybody likes me for saying it, but sometimes when governments ask me, they ask, Martin, what should we do to stimulate more entrepreneurialism? And I say, just stay out of the way. And of course, the environment and the circumstances must be there in taxation and infrastructure and technology and education. But other than that, governments are designed to protect and keep things stable, and entrepreneurs are there to disrupt and make things unstable so that new things can be born.
Thank you very much. Believe me, Finland is in a completely different league than we are here in Southern Europe. This is one of the findings in GEM. You are something like 12% rate of entrepreneurial activity among population. We are 7.6, so it's a big difference. Mike, please.
Well, from my perspective, I think thinking about it broadly, from a public policy perspective, I really believe that in most cases, the entrepreneurs today are looking for opportunities in the same areas where the public sector is beginning to make investments. This new generation of entrepreneurs are very much focused on many areas where there's a contribution back to society. Unlike the freewheeling days of Silicon Valley, where there was high upside, very much high upside, I think the new entrepreneurs of today are looking for two things. They're not looking to be billionaires tomorrow. They're looking for making a mark on how they're contributing to society, and that falls in many areas, including not the least of which is green technology. And so the extent that public policy can be formed to allow funding and get out of the way of young entrepreneurs in those sectors, I think you'll succeed. I don't believe they have to be big wins to motivate a lot of people to get into that sector.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Maximilian.
Hi, Max. I'm going to say something controversial. I think if you want to foster entrepreneurship in Europe, the way to start is changing policy radically, both concerning social measures regarding unemployment and taxation. I think cut capital gains tax, make hiring and firing easy, cut all red tape. When you set up a company in Germany, it's gotten better, but it's far from good. I still can't fire someone. And there is absolutely no reason when people join a startup, they do not expect job security. Why encumber both their employment relationship with me as well as me as the entrepreneur with rules that are essentially unnecessary? If you look at what is regulated in terms of labor in Europe, we are still way, way behind the United States. So I think starting with policy is the right thing. I think on education, we have neglected the sciences and engineering for a very long time. The rate of people studying liberal arts subjects in Europe is incredibly high, and most of these people become public servants. Essentially, you want to try and de-incentivize people to join government, and you want to incentivize them economically to start companies. And it's not a very tough recipe, but that would probably be my starting point.
Thanks. That was controversial. Was exactly what the president of the Spanish Businessmen Association, the main COE, said the other day, and that was controversial with the government, let me tell you. Thank you very much. So we got 3 people, sorry about that. Now, whoops. Barack, yes, sorry. Barack, please.
Hi, I'm Barack. The other one. So, I've always been a little confused about this issue of Southern Europe and entrepreneurialism. Because in reality, from my point of view, and I have to disagree, Silicon Valley has never been built on greed. Many people have gotten rich in Silicon Valley and have been happy to be rich in Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley and the technology industry and entrepreneurialism in the United States is built on passion. And, you know, maybe Southern Europe's passion is put into the wrong place, but there is no question that there's plenty of passion here.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
No, I don't think I need to elaborate on that. But I think it is important to understand from a policy point of view that this is about encouraging people to take whatever they're passionate about and make it into a business. You cannot steer it, but if people are passionate about the environment, great. Then get passionate about ways they can make small changes. Apple Computer was built on a passion on changing the world, about empowering people with computers. The Valley was built on that passion. Why do you think these multi-billionaires still work every day, 17 hours a day? Because they're passionate about what they build. And I think somehow there's got to be a way to tap into that history of passion in Southern Europe and make that into a real new way of expressing yourself.
Thank you. The other Barack. I guess what you said is that money is not the goal, but a result. I think this is also well understood here, even in Spain. And finally, for this first round, Joab Leitersdorf.
Joab Leitersdorf, a young and relatively inexperienced venture capitalist compared to the people on this panel. I meet with a lot of early stage companies day in and day out. I probably review at least half a dozen to a dozen every day, especially now that it's such a good time to invest, and I'm actually very, very active. Madeline said something about focus that is very important. I'd like to refine that a little bit from my perspective, which is focus on the dollar or the euro or the shekel or whatever it is, whatever currency you're in. I see way too many startups that have cool ideas, that have millions of users, or that have millions of page views or impressions or whatever metric you want to use. But today, I and a lot of investors, even with early stage businesses, are only interested in one thing, and that is customers and what they're paying for the product, what they're paying for the service. And all I need to see is a little bit. I need to see a few $1,000s a month, and I need to get a feeling that I can scale it, or that the management team together with its board and investors and everybody else, all the stakeholders, can scale it up and grow it. So I would focus on the money, on the customers, especially during recession, because I think that's where the hope lies, basically.